Hey, good morning, everybody. Robert Phoenix here. How are we today? This is 15 minutes of flame, 11:21, 18. Got a little bit of brightness behind me. Hold on. Let me deal with this. There we go. It's a little bit better, right? How is everyone? Pretty rollicking show yesterday. We had what's going on, Beth? We had some interesting characters in the chat room. Flip them up. Okay. Brown Sheep says flip them up. Let's see what happens when we flip them up. Let's see. How's that? That's a little better. It's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Anyway, hey, welcome to the show. As we settle in here, wait for people to show up. It was an interesting show yesterday. We had some new folks in the chat room, and let's just say, hey, what's going on, Marie? Hey, nice to see you. There's Justice. Let's just say they were trolling the experience. For you people in the chat room, first of all, let me just say this. I'm extremely protective of the people in the chat room, okay? Those are my peeps, my community, my family, and, if you're going to be an asshole in the chat room, I will not put up with it. You're out, okay? You want to come in, you want to talk, you want to ask questions, but if you want to be confrontational and be a jerk, you're out of there. I won't put up with it. I don't have any mods, but I'll stop the show and I'll kick your ass out. Okay? That's just the way it is. If you're going to be in that chat room, show some respect to these people. I care about these people. If you have an issue with my ideas, that's a whole different thing. You can go on to the chat afterwards and you present your case. I'll answer your questions. You got to present your case. Just don't come up with an existential kind of question like, can you see your error? That doesn't work. State what you think my error is. Okay? So anyway, I just want to get that really clear. There are rules of engagement. If you want to get in there, you want to talk, you want to ask questions, that's fine. If you want to be an asshole, you're out. I'm sorry. And as far as the interactions, people in the chat room, if people get trolly, freeze them out, leave them alone, block them, do whatever you have to do. Don't interact. Don't take it as an intellectual challenge to have to prove your point of view. You don't have to do any of that. Okay? Bottom line, end of story. All right. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on today's show because I know that we're headed into our holiday here in this country. And I know people from, other parts of the planet watch the show. So what I want to do is, what's going on, Kate? Hi, Stephen. What I wanted to do is I wanted to sort of broaden the discussion today about theoretically, what we do at this time of year. Thanksgiving, right? Live and let live. Live and let live. What does that mean, to live and let live? What does that mean? Does that mean to just allow people to come into the chat room and take a dump in our chat room? Is that what that means? I'm not going to put up with it. I'm sorry. I'm just not. Be respectful when you're in there. You want to be a jerk somewhere else, go find somebody else's stream. Sorry. It's just the way it is. Okay, good. All right. So here we have this thing called Thanksgiving, this day, right? It's a very interesting and in a lot of ways confusing day. And I, for one, really like Thanksgiving. It's one of my so-called favorite holidays. When I was a kid, I remember always waking up on Thanksgiving Day and really feeling excited, because there are things about Thanksgiving that I really like. Number one, the food. That was always a good thing. I love the food experience. That was always look forward to Thanksgiving meals. But also, I come from a very small family, just super nuclear, 3 people. So whenever Thanksgiving rolled around, it was a chance to hang out with more people, bigger family, relatives, extended family. So that made me happy. I mean, it's like lots of interactivity and simulation. And my grandmother was a very eccentric woman, and she would always take in these strays off the streets, and we would have unusual guests every now and then at Thanksgiving. And there was this one woman that my grandmother had befriended, and her name was Diane. And Diane lived in her car. And this is like during the 70s, the 60s and the 70s. Diane lived in her car, which is sad. I mean, it's sad. But Diane was also, Diane was a little cuckoo. But I liked her. I could tell she was a little crazy. And as I got older, I kind of got into the contours of her insanity, and wanted to bring it out a little bit more. So anyway, this is one of the things that Diane said. She said that she had this. Remember, this is the 70s. She said that she had gone to the dentist and had a filling put in, and that filling was actually a radio transmitter, and it was transmitting signals or text or speech, right, to her brain, so she could hear people talking to her, right? So of course it's going to drive the woman kind of, off the deep end. But if you think about it, right, this is an isolated, like there's no conspiracy theory world in a big way in 1970. And here's this older woman talking about how she went to a dentist and she's got this transmittal, and you would look at her and you would think, well, she's nuts. But quite frankly, I didn't think she was nuts. I thought she was interesting. So this was kind of the DNA of our Thanksgivings, but they were great. I loved them, and so I'd wake up and I'd feel excited about the day ahead. Of course, a little bit of football never hurt. And years later, when I got into astrology, I realized that it's this time of year when the sun is at around 28, 29 degrees Scorpio, and it's hitting my ascendant. And that's actually a really, really good thing. So if you're late degree Scorpio or early Sag rising, this is the start of your personal new year. You have 2 solar returns. People don't know this about astrology, but you have 2 solar returns over the course of the year. The first solar return, of course, happens on your birthday. The second solar return happens when the sun hits your ascendant, because you're starting your personal new year all over again. So not only was I picking up on the excitement of the food and the extended family and the crazy people, but also I was feeling sort of this kind of rebirth moment, when the sun would hit my ascendant. I feel good. So one of the things that I wanted to expand the dialogue and the discussion about, and that has to do with gratitude. I wanted to talk about gratitude today because I'll put it into an astrological context. Right now we're going to have, over the course of the next few days, we're going to have Sun Jupiter conjunction. And, that happens once a year. Jupiter changes signs every year. So the sun is always going to be conjunct Jupiter once a year. But it's not always conjunct Jupiter in its own sign. That's once every 12 years. So we're looking at kind of a heightened sort of period and focal point over the next few days where we can maximize the potential of Jupiter in Sagittarius, the sun in Sagittarius, and literally fill our cups. This is the, I wouldn't call it a strategy, but it's something to think about over the next few days, and to realize how full is your cup. Like this past year for me has been about removing myself from a particular orbit in my life and gaining perspective. Like I moved out of Austin, and being in Fredericksburg has been an interesting retreat in a lot of ways, and connecting me in with kind of more of a local flavor, smaller slower experience, and it's been really really good. But during that time, there's a lot of self reflection that I went through, and we're human for the most part, and so part of that experience for me has been looking back on my life and what I've been doing, and decisions I made, and choices I made, and actions I took or actions I didn't take, and a lot of that under the microscope. And and I had some very, very clear and very serious misgivings about certain things that I did or didn't do. Right? I could look at some, my God, this the power of choice is it's really powerful. The power of choice is so important. And then I got to how we undermine our choices all the time. Not all the time, but consistently. Why do we undermine our choices? Why do we undermine our own best interests? That became a real focal point for me this past year. And when you go through that, you have to look at things in kind of a clear, yet perhaps at times jaundiced view simultaneously. And it can be very easy to get stuck in the past and to look at what's not right, what's not wrong, what's gone wrong. It's kind of an automatic exercise in some ways, and it takes conscious effort. It takes the ability to be aware, to be able to change not just that perspective, but kind of a level of habituation, and even changing our thinking and changing how the neuronal networks or the neural networks in our brain actually operate. So this is really, really important, because that's where the real change is going to take place. It's when we shift our perspective. It's where we shift our attitude. It's where we shift our ability to see things from a much larger perspective and level up to get to the next level. And when we get into this period now, this phase with the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, this is really powerful. It's a very, very powerful time. And one of the things that I think is sort of the bedrock and the foundation for whatever it is you're going to experience over the next few days is, number one, gratitude. Because this is theoretically this time of year in this country that we're grateful, right? Thanksgiving, we give thanks. We're grateful for the blessings in our life, whatever they are, right? Even if we're sitting across from each other at a Thanksgiving table, and somebody's got the knife that's going to cut the turkey, and the other guy's got the little the two-pronged fork, right, that serves the turkey, and one's on the right and one's on the left, and I mean that's kind of how things have de-evolved. So it's really interesting. I've been this morning I've been reading about the science of gratitude, and one of the things that they have found, they had a study. They found that families are traveling less now. Like over the past, it's a really interesting study. They use phone apps that are connected to travel plans, and I think it's a study out of one of the schools in Southern California. Anyway, they've found that over the course of the last 2 years, people are traveling less, and there really is more of a demarcation between red and blue states. That the blue people hang together and the red people hang together, but even though that's occurring, there's still some commingling, a lot of commingling going on. And this could be potentially a really profound time. Like if you are in a situation where you're getting together and you're having your bird, or your tofurkey, or whatever it is you're having. I mean, with the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, even though it's Mercury retrograde, even though we're moving into a full moon, all those things, right? All those things aside, there's potential here. Now, one of the things is that Sagittarius can be very strident. It can be very strident and say, "Oh, I know you're a fucking asshole because you don't know what's right." Well, I know you're an asshole because you don't know what's right, right? I mean, this is what Sagittarius can be. It can be so invested in its own self-righteousness. And we may get more of that with Jupiter-Sun conjunction. But there's another side to it, and it's about being generous. Sagittarian, if you've ever been around Sagittarian people, or people have Sagittarius, they're generally pretty generous. Like they, sometimes to a fault, actually. So one of the things that we have at our disposal over the course of the next 4 to 5 days is a heightened degree of generosity. And generosity doesn't always mean you're giving money. Generosity could, let's say, for instance, you're sitting down and you're having Thanksgiving dinner and you're sitting across from somebody who has a very different political point of view. What are you going to do? So let's say they decide that they're going to make an issue of things. They're going to take Google's mandate and talk about things metaphorically, right? So you can confuse the hell out of the people that you're with and essentially be an annoying asshole, right? No, I'm just kidding. So how could you deal with something like that? Well, you can expand things. I'll give you an example. When I was in college, I had a great teacher. He was his name was James Dickey, and the reason why he was such a great teacher is because he was a real teacher. He knew about the art and the science of teaching and getting people excited about material and always expanding the material, always expanding the sort of the talking points of whatever it is. I mean, I loved going to his class. I learned a lot from him. And one day there was a woman in the class, and we were talking about a novel or a short story. I think it might have been a novel. And she kept asking really pedantic questions. And she kept asking them. There was like, she could go like 2 or 3 levels higher with her questions. But instead of getting frustrated with her, he would take her question, he would ask it, look at it, ask it, rewire it, reword it, and then put it back out to the class at another level so that we could expand the topic of the conversation. And I watched him do this the entire class, and I thought, this dude's a master. He's great because what he did is he honored where this person was. Didn't demean him, didn't put him down, didn't say, and I've seen teachers do this, by the way. I've seen teachers be arrogant assholes. And, and there's a time and a place for that, right? There's a time and a place for, hey, you can do better. Dig deeper. I get that. But that's not what he did. He expanded everything. By the end of the class, we'd had a really rich discussion. And the woman who was asking the questions, while she wasn't necessarily validated in some ways, she also wasn't really demeaned. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's a methodology there. And with the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, you can expand the topic of the conversation. In order to expand the topic of the conversation, you have to get out of the polarized 180-degree view. And there are different things that you can do. Let's say, for instance, and this is about breaking patterns, creating new neural pathways in your head. Let's say, for instance, things get heated. Okay, you can sit there in your seat across from a person or wherever they are and get entrenched. Or guess what? You could get up out of your seat, go into the kitchen, find a water pitcher, or maybe there's a water pitcher on the table, and you pick it up and you go to the kitchen and you fill it up and you walk around and you start refilling people's glasses. Okay, what does that do? First of all, it breaks that polarization. Number 2, it gives you a creative moment or creative outlet in the moment to stop whatever entrainment is going on. Because once that train gets rolling, man, it's hard to pump the brakes. Number 3, it builds a bridge and a bond between the people and you at your dinner table, that you can actually be of service. Maybe it's not water. Maybe you go out and get another bottle of wine. Do something. Break the spell. Break the spell. And when you come back, you have the opportunity to interact at another level. And the best thing to do would be ask questions. Well, why do you feel this way? And why do you feel this way? Why is it important to you? What would happen? What would be the worst case scenario? Do you think that these things would actually happen and come true? Right? How could, theoretically, how could people help you? Yeah. I mean, to get to that point where you're asking questions and expanding the subject matter, again and again. And the next thing you know, what you want is you want dialogue. What you don't want at your dinner table is demagoguery. You just don't want it. And again, I'm going to throw this into the mix as well. We think that we're insignificant, that our lives mean nothing, that our interactions are meaningless, and I would say that's contrary. That's not exclusively true. If you can have a meaningful discussion, if you can bring something to another level, you're adding something to our collective experience. You're strengthening our collective immune body, right? This is what you're doing. Essentially, you are bringing consciousness, awareness, and, for lack of a better term, the spirit of God into the discussion, into the experience. Okay? And that matters. It does matter. Because again, when people have an experience, they get up, they walk away, they go connect with other people. They have other experiences after the one that they're in. And those are very important. You don't know where they go or how they impact or influence another person. That's number one. And number two, from an etheric standpoint, from this body, this etheric body that we're all swimming in, right? It actually helps that etheric body. It's almost like a fortification of B12 into the etheric body. So I'm just giving you the potential here. Try to stay away from demagoguery. The trick with the Jupiter Sun Sagittarius is to be convinced of your own self-righteousness. And the better expression, or the higher expression, is to expand the subject matter, to expand your point of view, to be generous in that moment. And to be generous in that moment might be to give that person an opportunity to really talk and to be heard. That person is ready, man. They're ready for combat. They're ready for conflict. They've got their armor on. And what happens if they go there and there's no fight? What happens if they go there and they meet somebody across from them who is a sage, or somebody who across from them is who's into inquiry versus brandishing swords? All of a sudden, they have no use for their armor. They have no use for their soft technologies that they brought to that experience. Changes the dynamic. Anyway, things to think about. Now, I'm going to read some stuff about the science of gratitude today, but let me get into the chat room to see where we are with everything. Totally, everything ripples outward. Absolutely, 100%. Yes, Sonny B. Amen, amen. Preach, brother. Sometimes the Socratic method is best. Ask questions always. Love cast, that fear not attack. So we got a good chat room today. When I take time out to count my blessings, it always helps to clear my mind. Absolutely. Sag here, generous sometimes. So I love Sagittarians are really generous people. Venus and Sag. Let's see, Mercury and Sag. Generous people. It's a good energy. Good energy. All right, so I'm gonna read a little stuff here. Okay, so this is from a website called HeySigmund.com, and it is the science of gratitude, how it changes people, relationships, and brains, how to make it work for you. So here we go. The author is Karen Young. Gratitude. We're all capable of it, but sometimes we need a little reminder or a little convincing to practice it. There are many reasons to practice gratitude, but we are only recently discovering one of the big ones: its capacity to change and strengthen the brain in remarkably positive ways. Remember, the goal here is to create new neural pathways that to be able to expand our awareness so that we can have greater flexibility, mobility, and potential in any given moment. Gratitude is powerful. It might not throw itself at our feet and demand our attention in a why, oh, why won't you notice me kind of way, but it's powerful. Research has shown that gratitude can improve general well-being, increase resilience, strengthen social relationships, and reduce stress and depression. The more grateful people are, the greater their overall well-being and life satisfaction. They'll also have stronger immune systems, lower blood pressure, better sleeps, and better waking. They'll be more alert, more generous, compassionate, and happy. Grateful people have a capacity for joy and positive emotions. Why is gratitude important? And don't say because it changes your brain. We knew it was important before we knew about that. Gratitude involves noticing the goodness in the world, but it doesn't mean being blind to the tough stuff. And that's true. Or the mess that can get all of us from time to time. That's right. Gratitude doesn't mean you stick your head in the sand. You know, we're paradoxical. We're very simple, and we're really complex at the same time. So we can still practice gratitude and keep our eyes on the prize. Gratitude makes sure that in the midst of the things that serve up a good dose of negative feelings, we don't lose sight of the good. Here are some of the ways gratitude turns up the volume on the feel goods. It strengthens our connection with people. Gratitude is an acknowledgement that something meaningful has been done for us. It's an open-hearted, deliberate recognition of the generosity of the giver. Of course, we can also be grateful for broader things that haven't necessarily been given to us by someone, such as our health, a safe place to sleep, or friendships. As with material things, though, showing gratitude for the less tangible things in our lives stops us from being seen as entitled or freeloader, neither of which generally add shine to social relationships. It lets people know we aren't the type to take things for granted. There are two types of people: those who wave thanks to people, let them in traffic, and those who don't. Each invite their own response from the world. Gratitude shows that we're good to be in a relationship with, and that we appreciate certain things without expecting them. It reinforces generous behavior. Gratitude reinforces generosity from the giver and from the receiver. When there is an open display of gratitude in our relationships, both people are more likely to repeat that giving and the open-hearted receiving. This is exactly what I was talking about. The effect of this is not only from person to person, but can ripple into the world. That's exactly what I was sharing. Gratitude rewards generosity and maintains the cycle of healthy social behavior. This is from Antonia Damasia, director of the BCI and Dornsife Neuroimaging Institute at the University of Southern California, professor of psychology and neurology. It increases feelings of security and connectedness. Gratitude helps us notice that good comes from outside of ourselves. We see the good in the world and in the people around us, increasing our feelings of security and connectedness. It keeps the feel-goods around for longer. Positive emotions tend to be like Teflon. They slide off of us way too quickly. Gratitude lets us hang on to the positive for longer and celebrate the good in our lives that we might otherwise move on too quickly from. It squeezes out negative feelings. It's impossible to feel grateful and negative at the same time. The more space gratitude is allowed to take up, the more it will expand itself and make way for other positive emotions: connection, happiness, appreciation, joy. More good feelings means less room for the toxic ones. Let's be clear. There are toxic feelings and negative feelings that are counterproductive and can be seen as flawed programs that are inside of ourselves. There's also, I wouldn't necessarily call it negative, but there's also the ability to see clearly without rose-colored glasses. And some people might say that that's negative, but that's more along the lines of clarity and truth. And it's very, very important that feelings of positivity, gratitude, that they're able to merge and synthesize with clarity and truth. And when you have that model together, you've got a pretty good engine for getting through daily life. Okay. And ultimately, I think that's the goal, to bring those two together: clarity, truth, not turning away from things inside of yourself or the outside world, and bringing in a greater sense of connectivity, wholeness, and thankfulness. Right? Bring those two together, boy. You can move in a lot of different directions. and do so from a place of real, true authenticity. Gratitude, it helps with depression. Research has found that gratitude can help with depression, increase positive feelings. Enough said. Here we go. Let's get into this. The science of gratitude. How does gratitude change the brain? When the brain feels gratitude, the parts of the brain that are activated include the ventral and dorsal medial prefrontal cortex. These areas are involved in feelings of reward, the reward when stress is removed, morality, interpersonal bonding, and positive social interactions, and the ability to understand what other people are thinking or feeling. Gratitude also has the capacity to increase important neurochemicals. When thinking shifts from negative to positive, there is a surging of feel-good chemicals such as dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. These all contribute to the feelings of closeness, connection, and happiness. These all contribute to the feelings of closeness, connection, and happiness that come with gratitude. Gratitude builds on itself. We know the brain changes with experience. So the more that gratitude is practiced, the more the brain learns to tune in to the positive things in the world. This isn't something that tends to come naturally. We humans have a negativity bias, which means that we're wired to notice threats in the environment. This is true. This is a good thing. It's kept us alive since the beginning of us. But as well as being alive, we also want to be happy. When there's too much of a focus on the negative, gratitude can be a way to nurture more positive focus and teach the brain to spend more time on the feel-goods, less time hanging on to the things that scrape. So again, we're talking about a dance here, to see the world, right? See the world as it is, and also to have a higher awareness, a higher connection, and a feeling of gratitude that can allow you to move through that world more gracefully and at a higher level. With the brain primed to notice the negatives, we need to not only teach it teach it to tune into the positive, but also to hold positives for long enough to have an effect. Our default position is to let the good slide off us fairly quickly. So we need to be deliberate about holding on to it long enough to change the brain. Rick Hansen has done plenty of work in this area and has found that focusing on an experience for 20 seconds is long enough to create positive social structures in the brain, positive structural changes in the brain. Gratitude gives space for the positive experience to expand, or for us to re-experience it rather than having us move quickly on from it. Gratitude has the added power of initiating a social loop that has the potential to expand the good for everyone involved. This is what I was sharing. The more gratitude we feel, the more we'll act in a pro-social way towards others, which will encourage their feelings of gratitude, which will make them more pro-social. And so goes a beautiful cycle of gratitude. How do I practice gratitude? There are plenty of ways to practice gratitude, but however it's done, it's important that it's done with consistency and novelty. Our brains like novelty. They love it, actually. They quickly adapt to anything that stays constant. This is why the joy we feel for things that have us swooning in the beginning soon lose their shimmer. Our brains adapt. And when they do, they go looking for the next special thing. Gratitude can change us. With gratitude, we're constantly giving our brains something new and positive to focus on, provided we practice gratitude for different things, not the same thing. Being grateful for the same things every day, even if they are important and worthy of enormous gratitude, won't have the same effect on the brain as finding something positive and new each time. As for consistency, it sounds easy enough. To practice gratitude consistently, but if negative feelings tend to cozy up to you quickly, it might be more difficult than you expect. To work around this, start small. Things that take more effort will always seem further away and more difficult. That makes sense. The more difficult they are, the less likely to be able to see it through. Here are some other ways to practice. 3 things a day for 21 days. For 21 days, write down 3 things that happened in the previous 24 hours that you're grateful for. They can be things in the world or things that happened in yours, and they can be as big or small as you want. The breeze on your skin when you walked, a warm bed to sleep in, coffee when you woke up. According to Harvard happiness researcher Sean Achor, doing this for 21 days will train your brain to look at the world in a different way. You'll start to scan the world for positives instead of for threats. It's important. The things you find in the world to be grateful for are new and specific. So rather than I'm grateful for my friends, try I'm grateful for Sally. because of the way she made me laugh today. Take a positive experience, whether it's a text you received or catching up with someone you like. Find a positive experience. Spend 2 minutes writing down every detail about it. Write them in list form and do it for 21 days. According to HR, as you remember positive experiences, your brain labels it as meaningful, and the imprint in your brain deepens. The brain can't tell the difference between an actual experience and a visualization. So calling on a positive experience after it's happened doubles the feel good in your brain. The idea is that after 21 days, it will become a habit, and it will change the way your brain looks at and receives the world. It says here, write letters, even if you don't have to send them. And finally, gratitude rewires our brain so we become more likely to focus on the positives in the world than the negatives. The negative shit's going to be there, right? And it's about finding new and novel ways to interact with the negative. This is where we're headed. We're not going to become ignorant of danger. We appreciate the positives for a little while, but we will become more open to the good. Our brains will always seek things that keep us safe, but we also need things that nurture our happiness and emotional well-being. All right, let me check in with the chat room here. Let's see what we have. I discovered that the way to perceive gratitude is to me. So Nicoletta says it represents a color. Let's see what else we have here. Thank you, Robert, for the feel good say. Oh, that's my apple pie. Your comment came in as he said, rose-colored glasses. Rosie is the name. That's true, Rosie. Call someone you know. They did something good or contributed positive to your life, even if it was ages ago. Tell them how much that meant for you. Yep, I see it. She sees gratitude in colors. What else? CV, need coffee. What else do we have here? I try to set Chris and Steve say, let's see. I try to set the pattern of gratitude by starting the day thankful for working hot water in the shower. Amen, right? And that I have a home to shower in. It's a it's a pretty big one. I'm grateful every day for the witch piss I drink and call teal. Haha, that's funny. Okay. All right. So listen, somebody said that they're grateful for me. I'm grateful for all of you. This is this is really, hanging out with you guys and doing these flames. I mean, for me, it's really therapeutic. It allows me to put some of my thoughts out there. It gives me a sense of service, being able to help. It allows me to address, darkness in a way that is kind of proactive, and allows me to kind of disassemble it, transform it. For me, every day here with 15 minutes of flame is an alchemy. It's an act of alchemy, and I'm really grateful for everybody that shows up here and participates in this. And I think we all get something out of it, to whatever degree that we get out of it. And I just did a kind of a pledge drive. I did a little donation thing, and it was great. And I just want to thank everybody who donated to the show, and it allows me to continue to keep doing this. It was really good. I'm super grateful for that. But sometimes life is simple. And sometimes it's a lot more complex, and it comes right down to being able to acknowledge those things and to actually really be grateful for them. And look, it's a time in our lives and with the planet where things are tricky. They're real tricky. I mean, we are in a deconstruction phase like we've never seen, and it's okay to understand that, and it's actually okay to kind of call out what's going on. It's not even kind of okay. It's actually really important. But when we come from a place of gratitude and we come from a place of real, genuine, life-affirming, spirit of God within positivity, we can make changes that are more profound, less reactive. We have a greater impact in how we can change our lives, affect our lives, change, and ultimately, as a result, that ripple effect takes place. Sticky Marks, African Tribal Mandingo Wolof. Thanks for allowing me to join. Hey, you're welcome. You're really welcome. The Western African tradition is a really interesting tradition. And they talk about this concept called Ashe. And Ashe is a spirit. It is a spirit. It is a conscious cultivation of a spirit. And theoretically, the more ashe you have, sort of the more power you have. And there's a list of kind of social interactions that allow you to have or acquire more ashe. And part of it is gratitude and being able to really give thanks for the world around you. So it's not just a Western thing. You know, gratitude is universal. And for you people who are not in the United States, who don't, you know, practice Thanksgiving the way that we do here, it's not necessarily a big deal. But you can have your own relationship any time of day with it. Since Jupiter and Sag, your tone's warmer. Could be, maybe. Jupiter went into my 12th house. It was kind of a big deal. You know, look, I'll have my acerbic moments. I'll have my caustic moments. You know, I'll have my funny moments. You can't get too like self-righteous or preachy. I got to stay on top of that. But yeah, I'm digging the Jupiter and Sag thing. Lynn says, I feel the alchemy. That's why I'm here. Ani, that's awesome. Of Africa and Cuba. All right, listen, I'm going to let you guys get out of here now. Get out of here. Go be grateful. Go be grateful. Go spread it around. All right? Go be grateful. Okay. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. There you go. There's your formula for gratitude and happiness. Oh, Nicoletta has a question. Okay. What is it, Nicoletta? What's your question? Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. What's your question, Nicoletta? Waiting. Grateful Dead. Are you doing a show tomorrow? No, I am not. I'm not. If one day you'll have to choose what? A side? Probably. Sure. I think so. If that's what you're saying. Yeah, probably. I think the world's going to split at some points. Probably already has. But yeah. If one day you have to choose what? Thanks for blessings for all. Yeah, you guys are great. You're awesome. Best chat room on the internet. Bar none. All right. Choose love. Oh, rich or Buddha? There's the question. Rich or Buddha? Well, the Buddha was rich at one point, right? I mean, that's the story of Siddhartha. So the Buddha was really, really wealthy. St. Francis was a rich playboy, and then he became St. Francis. Sometimes it can be both, but maybe not always in the same package. I don't think it's exclusive. I mean, I think having a lot of resources can be really, really, really good if you know what to do with them. Yeah. I think they can be really good. Rich Buddha. There you go. That would be a good online name, Rich Buddha. All right. Get on out of here. Enjoy whatever festivities you're experiencing today, whether you're in this country or any other. And I'll be back on Friday with the Friday Forecast. No show tomorrow. I'm Robert Phoenix. Take good care. Ciao.